Alright guys, so today I'm going to show you how to change your oil in your Nissan 350Z. What you're going to need is 5W30 or 10W30 synthetic. I use Mobil 1. You can use whatever brand you want. Just make sure it's 5W or 10W and full synthetic. And then you're going to need an oil filter. I use the Mobil 1 108A. These filters will fit if you have a oil cooler or anything else under there that you're worried about space requirements. These are really short filters, so you don't have to worry about that. The only tools you're going to need is a jack and some jack stands, a 15mm socket, 10mm socket, and a ratchet. And you might need some filter pliers or whatever they're called. And yeah, so the first thing you're going to do is take off your undershroud. I have one from Z1 Motorsports. I already took mine off because I had to take off my front bumper because I'm doing my lights. But so you'll take that off, and then I'll get underneath and show you what you need to remove. With the undershroud removed, you can see the oil drain bolt and the oil filter. So I've already taken mine out and drained all the oil, but you'll put your 15mm socket on there, have your drain pan right underneath. It doesn't have to be a drain pan, you can use a bucket or whatever you got, and you're just gonna loosen it until you can undo it by hand, and then loosen it by hand, keep pressure on it so that it doesn't spill out on you, and then as soon as it's about to come out, keep pressure on it, pull it out real quick, and then oil is going to start dripping down. So next thing you're going to do is take off your filter. And then I always set my filter on the drain pan and just let it drain. I've already drained mine. There's just some excess leaking out. So just let it drain for a minute, and then you can put those bolts back in, or you can buy a new bolt. These don't come factory with magnetic bolts. So I'll go up top and show you the new bolt that I bought. Alright guys, so this is a new bolt I bought from Z1 Motorsports. This is just the baggie that I keep my crush washers in, but it's got a little dyno dude on there. Even though you're not going to be able to see it, you'll know it's there. But the important bit is the magnet on the bottom. So what that magnet's going to allow you to do is see if there's any metal shavings in your oil, which would not be a good thing. So when you change your oil, you can check that. If there's a little bit, it's not too big of a deal. There's usually some remnants left over, and it won't cause a problem. But if there's a bunch, then you got a problem, and that's a good way to tell. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this out of the bag and go back underneath the car, show you how to install everything else. One thing I always do whenever I am doing these is I will get my oil filter, and I always have just a small little thing of oil that I keep in my car. Usually every 2 or 3 fill-ups of gas, I'll top my oil off. But what is a good thing to do is, if you don't want your oil filters to get stuck, you can pour some oil into your oil filter before you put it in the car. Just to prime it up a little bit. You don't have to fill it up all the way. And keep in mind, in the Z, you're going to be coming at an angle, so you don't want it filled up all the way. I always just fill it up just barely to the threads. And then that oil around the edge right there with clean hands, just put it around the rubber seal. And that's going to allow you to remove it easier, and it'll make a better seal as well, so it's a win-win. So after you've done that, you can wipe off all the stuff underneath and install the new filter and the old bolt or the new bolt. If you're opting to use the old bolt still, you need a new crush washer, which you can buy from Walmart or whatever. They're really cheap, but I always use the copper ones. You don't have to, but that's the ones that I like to use. So I'm going to take this bolt out, get underneath the car, show you how to install everything, and then I'll bring it back up to the top. Alright, so now that we're back under here, a good thing to do is just grab a towel or something and clean off all the excess oil and stuff. And if you can see there's still a little bit of that seal on where my filter goes, and you don't want that. You want to clean all that off. So I'm just gonna rub it all off. And now it's all clean again. So next thing I'm gonna do is just wipe off underneath here. And there's still some oil dripping out. That's not a huge deal. I only have my car jacked up on the one side, and I do that for a reason. You can, if you jack it up on that side, this hole is on this side, this filter's on this side, so all the oil will drain out quicker, and you'll get more out than if you were to just jack it up on both sides, because then it'll be flat, you know. So having a little bit of oil come out, it's not really a big deal. You can go ahead and install your new bolt. So just put your bolt in, and it'll just thread in. If it doesn't seem like it wants to thread in, undo it and start threading it in again. You do not want to cross thread these bolts. That is a bad idea. So now that that's on there, you can see it says 17 foot-pounds. So you're going to tighten that bolt down to 17 foot-pounds of torque. You can use your torque wrench if you don't have one. It's not a big deal. Just tighten it down pretty tight and you should be fine. Next thing we're going to install is the oil filter. So take your filter and just plop it on there, start screwing it down, and then get it hand tight, as tight as you can get it with your hands, and then give it one really good turn. It really doesn't need to be too tight. You don't need to use a tool. Just get it on there hand tight, and that's all good. So tighten down that bolt. I'm going to do that off camera. That's all my old oil, and then I'll take you up top and show you how to fill it up. Alright, so now that you've tightened everything down and everything's all good down there, gonna come up here. Now my engine cover is missing. I'm working on it right now. I'm actually gonna clean up this engine bay a little bit, but that'll be a different video. Your oil fill cap is right there. Your oil dipstick is right here. So I'm actually gonna clean this off a little bit here. It was pretty dusty. I just had body work done on my car, so it's a bunch of dust everywhere. But basically all you'll do is take this out, and it's a good time to check it to see if there's any contamination inside or anything, to see if there's a head gasket leak or anything. And then you're gonna go ahead and grab a funnel. Doesn't matter what kind of funnel. I like to use this one for my oil just because it drains in there real quick. I use this big one for radiator fluid. I use that tiny one for like power steering fluid, brake fluid, all that other stuff. And you want to make sure that your filter is clean on the inside. You don't want any crud in there, so I'm going to take it inside and clean it out in the sink, and then come back out and fill it up. There's no more crud in here. Just go ahead and stick that down in there. Grab your big jug of oil. This car is going to take this entire thing. So it takes 5 quarts. So basically all you're going to do is take this cap off here, pop this open, and then pour this into there. So I'll get back to you once I've done that. Alright, so now that you've poured all the oil in there, you can go ahead and take this out. It's going to be drippy, so make sure you've got a towel or something to put it on. Just tap it off, take it out real quick, set it down on a towel or something, and then put your cap back on. Doesn't have to be extremely tight, just tight enough. And then after you fill it up, what you're gonna do is go under here, make sure there's no leaks coming out of that bolt, make sure there's no leaks coming out the filter, and then I always let mine sit for like a minute or two just to make sure it's not gonna drain out. And then we can start her up, make sure there's no leaks, and then she's good to go. Alright guys, so now that the oil change is done and also bumper and lights are in, I'm going to start the car and check for leaks. I've already checked the level of oil in it and checked to make sure there's no leaks without turning it on, so I'm going to turn it on and then we'll watch it, let it run for 2 minutes, and then it should be good. Get underneath and check it. I don't see any leaks underneath, so I'm going to let it run for a few minutes and then we'll be good to go. So that's how to change your oil, and hope this helped.